Hi everyone, it's Shannon here for Hero Arts. In today's video, we are going to create these two Valentines featuring the classic January My Monthly Hero kit. Let's start by taking a quick look at the products included in the classic kit. First, you have these Love You dies and that heart window die. You have Love Messages stamp set, and then the 5 Color Layering Floral Background stencils. We're going to start with these stencils. We'll actually use all the products in the classic kit. We're going to start with stencil 1. There are some register corners that you can kind of ink blend or color in to help you line up. I'm going to ink blend over a large panel. This is 8.5 by 5.5. This is just going to make it easier to perfectly trim down my panel later. I'm starting with stencil number 1. The stencils are numbered in the lower left corner, and I'm going to ink blend simply over this stencil with Ultra Pink. You may have noticed that I did ink blend the corners a little bit. That's just to kind of color in those register squares so I can line up my following stencils more easily. So just going to simply ink blend with that Ultra Pink, nice flat color. Once I finish that, I'll remove the stencil. Now I'm on to stencil number 2. Again, the number for each stencil is in the lower left corner. I'll line this up using the register kind of squares in all 4 corners to kind of help me line it up. And then for my next color, we're going to move on to kind of a darker pink. This is Raspberry Jam. So we're going to ink blend over all these flowers and kind of create the details for these flowers. So kind of two sets of flowers. The first 2 stencils will ink blend the base and the detail layers for those 2 flowers. For these flowers, I've obviously went with kind of pink tones. For my next set of flowers, I'm going to do more red tones. So now that I've finished with that Raspberry Jam, we're going to move on to stencil number 3. This is the base layer for the second set of flowers. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going with red tones for this, starting with Fruit Punch Reactive ink. I love this red. It's a really bright, cheery red, kind of on the corally side, and I love it. I think it's a beautiful complement to that kind of bubblegum pinks that we used earlier. Simply going to ink blend all the openings in this stencil with a nice, flat, generous blend of that fruit punch. Now we're moving on to stencil number 4. Now stencil number 4 is actually the leaves. It will ink blend some of the flower centers, but because it's mostly the leaves, I'm actually going to use pine. Now pine is going to color all the leaves green, and where it overlaps for like the flower centers, it's actually just going to kind of create a really dark, almost red, almost dark, almost black really center for the flowers, because that green layered on top of the pink or the red just makes a really, really dark color. Now we're moving on to the last stencil. This is stencil number 5. Going to line it up here, again using those registers in the corners. And for this one, this is actually the detail layer for the second set of flowers. So I went with a dark red, this is Cranberry, and just going to ink blend over all of the openings. And not only does this create the detail layer for the flowers, it actually adds detail to the leaves. And again, because we're using red on top of green, it's going to kind of read as a dark green, maybe a little bit maroon, but I still think it works really well. And here's the finished panel. I went ahead and trimmed it down. So beautiful. I love layering stencils, and I love this color combo. I think it's really pretty. Now I'm going to use the heart frame die that actually lines up with the floral images from the stencil from the background. Line it up, and then I'll run it through my die cutting machine, and now we'll have our 2 kind of bases for our 2 cards, because again, this is kind of a 2-for-1 design where we're using 1 panel to make 2 cards. Now we're going to actually move on to our sentiments. I have the Love Messages stamp set. Again, this stamp set is included in the classic kit, but all the products that are included in the classic kit are also part of the premium kit. So I'm going to heat emboss, so I did apply some anti-static powder over some pitch black ink, inked up my sentiments in Embossing and Watermark ink from Hero Arts. Now I'm going to dip it into some white embossing powder, and then of course I'll heat set with my heat tool. After I heat set these sentiments, I am going to fussy cut them out. I like the look of a fussy cut sentiment. I like the border being really close to the letters, but you could definitely just cut this in a strip if you don't want a fussy cut. So I'm going to simply kind of quickly fussy cut around my letters here just to kind of make a nice consistent border around all of them. And once I finish with this first sentiment, I'll then just repeat that process for the second. But I'll hold it up here to the camera. You can see you got a nice border around that, nice and trim. And now I'm going to repeat that process for my second sentiment. And of course, you don't have to fussy cut these out. You could just trim them with your paper trimmer to be a strip, and that would look just as beautiful. So now I'm going to move on to our other part of our sentiment. So I have the Love You word dies that are included in the Premium Classic Kit. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut them out of some Dove White cardstock twice. Then I'm going to layer them up on top of each other. This is just going to provide a little bit of dimension. It really is these little details that really really give your cards a professional look. And it's pretty simple to do. So just that little bit of stacking our cardstock gives that a little bit of dimension, and it's going to make it just look a little bit more clean and professional. So now I have an A2 top folding white card base as well as a panel that's 4 by 5 1/4, so a little bit smaller than an A2 panel. These are for our two cards. We're going to start with the top folding A2 card base, and we're going to ink blend with Ultra Pink around all the sides, but we're going to try to keep the center clear. We're going to kind of ink blend a gradation in towards the center, so it's darker on the edges and lighter in the center. I'm going to go ahead and grab my heart panel and place it over to just kind of see where I need to ink blend a little bit more. I want a little bit of that Ultra Pink to kind of fill in around the edges of that heart window, and it just is going to add some more dimension with that little bit of ink blending. So pretty subtle, but I really like the way that this kind of adds more to the card, and then instead of just having a stark white background. So I am going to do a little bit of cleaning up here with my sand eraser because I just got a little too harsh of a line there, but that's where I'm going to stop. Now we have this smaller panel. This is again 4 by 5 1/4, so a little bit smaller than an A2 panel. Again, I'm using Dove White cardstock. This panel is going to be for the second card. Here I'm ink blending again with Ultra Pink, but this time kind of opposite, where we're ink blending in the center and creating a gradation where it gets lighter towards the edges. So a little bit basically opposite what we did before. Grabbed the heart negative, and I'm just kind of holding it over to see. I just want that ink blending to be just a little bit past the edges of that beautiful floral heart. And I think we're just about there. Yep, I'm going to stop there. So now we're ready to kind of put our card together. We have our blended backgrounds, of course, our floral panel elements, which I did add foam adhesive to the backside. I have foam adhesive on the backside of our word die cuts and our heat embossed sentiments. So now we're going to start by adhering that smaller panel to the front of an A2 top folding white card base. Again, this panel is a little bit smaller than an A2 panel, so we have a beautiful little white border around. And then I'll remove the backing on our heart here. I had some foam adhesive on it. And then I'll place it right over that ink blended heart there. And that just creates a little bit, that beautiful blending just really helps to make that heart pop a little bit. And I love how it's just steps it up a little bit more from just being a stark white background. I removed the foam backing on the U word die cut, stuck it over the heart, and then I finished by removing the foam adhesive backing on the sentiment strip and stuck that down. So now we're actually done with that card. We're going to move on to card number 2. I'm going to start by removing all the foam adhesive from our frame and place it over our card front. Again, that beautiful little bit of Ultra Pink ink blending kind of encroaching in on that window, and I just love that. Went ahead and removed the backing on the foam adhesive on the love, and I'm just going to center that and place that inside that heart window. And then we'll finish by removing the backing on the Hugs and Kisses sentiment strip here and place that down. And that will actually complete the 2 cards. I'll hold up to the camera here so you can get a good look. I love the colors. I love kind of pink and red together. So it's just perfect for Valentine's, but it's just a beautiful palette to begin with. The color layering stencils are gorgeous. I love all the details. And I just think that little bit of ink blending that we did on the backgrounds really kind of brings these 2 cards to perfection. I hope you guys enjoyed today's cards and video. If any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.